I wander, caught in a web of despair, chasing dreams that slipped away, bringing the heavy air. Each moment felt like drowning, every choice a bitter chain. But in the depths of sorrow, I found strength within the pain. Forth from the pain, I'll rise anew. Through the struggles, I'll fight for you. With every scar, story to share. I'm learning to breathe in the open air. Out of the darkness, I claim my light. Forth from the pain, I'm ready to fight. Waves of doubt, they crash around, but I'm stronger than before. Step I take on this hard road opens up another door, with hope as my companion and love to light the way. I'll embrace the journey, let the past fade away. And when the clouds roll in and the nights feel long, I'll remember my strength. In this heart I belong. Together we'll stand in the warmth of our grace. Every tear that we shed turns to growth in this space. Forth from the pain, I'll rise anew. Through the struggles, I'll fight for you. With every star, a story to share. I'm learning to breathe in the open air. Out of the darkness, I claim my light. Forced from the pain, I'm ready to fly.
Welcome, everyone, to another riveting episode of Forged from Pain, the podcast where we dive into the heavy but oh so important conversations about mental health, resilience, and recovery. I'm your host, Sir Grimm, and today we have a truly remarkable episode lined up for you. So grab a seat, settle in, and maybe even pour yourself a nice cup of something comforting, because trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. Now let me introduce our very special guest for today's episode. Joining us all the way from the Picturesque Mountains of Whitley County, Kentucky, is a firefighter who has quite literally faced the flames of adversity, both in his profession and in his personal life. Please give a warm welcome to Alex. Not only does he battle fires and save lives, but he is also willing to share his incredible journey through the complexities of PTSD and depression that come with being a first responder. What a trooper, right? Today, Alex and I are going to embark on a journey that explores the gritty realities of PTSD among first responders. We'll be digging deep into how these brave men and women cope with trauma, what it means to navigate depression in various age groups, and most importantly, how we can each find our own motivation to rise above the shadows of our struggles. So whether you're tuning in from your car, your cozy couch, or even while you're pretending to work from the office, hey, I won't tell. Get ready for an enlightening chat that aims to not just inform you, but also inspire you. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. All right, without further ado, let's dive into this incredible conversation with Alex. All right, Alex, welcome to the podcast. We'll go ahead and start off with diving straight into this. So, can you go ahead and describe your experience as a firefighter and what led you to this profession?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about it. By the way, thanks for letting me be on the podcast. Really appreciate it. But what got me into firefighting was, at first I was a freshman in high school, and they did a junior firefighter program about an hour away from my town. So I was like, okay, I'll just go down there and check it out, see what it's like. So we went down there, see what it was like. I stayed there for about a year. I'm still with them technically, but I'm trying to get out of it right now so I can go full volunteer with the department I'm at with right now. But yeah, that's basically where it started. I got really into it, and then we went to a fire station about not even 5 minutes away from my house now, and I played for a volunteer firefighter, did the training, and here I am now.
So let's just follow up on that one. What was it in those instances that drew you actually following through and becoming a firefighter?
Well, besides the nice lights and the cool sirens and the cool trucks, um, I'd say probably just getting able to get out in community, help out as much as I can.
Okay. Now, next question would be, what are some of the most challenging situations you have encountered while you were on the job?
I mean, it ranges basically either from getting mattress up because you can't roll up a hose right, or stressful EMS situation, or you lose someone to, you can't, they just like fail on you, they flatline when you're trying to do CPR, anything like that, to get mad at yourself for doing something wrong. Simplest thing.
Okay. Now, furthering in on the EMS portions, how many of those calls have you attended and gone on with?
I mean, I don't really do EMS as much, but I'll do like car accidents, and then we don't get a lot of fires, so it's
Okay.
mostly like car wrecks, and that's what I usually respond to.
All right. Out of the many car wrecks that you have been rolled up on, which ones held the more challenging encounters for you in
Um,
regards to the PTSD?
well, one of them was sadly my buddy, which was drunk driving, and he ended up passing away from hitting a tree. I responded to that, didn't even know it was him until they found his ID. Yes, that's how mangled his face was.
Sorry for your loss. That is a challenging
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, he was a good guy. I loved him to death, but he's in a better place now, so.
Now, how do you personally define PTSD, and what symptoms have you observed among your peers?
To me, PTSD is any kind of traumatic experience, not only for first responders. It can go anywhere from childhood traumas to anything, basically, that could give you a traumatic experience that always sticks with you. Sometimes it could go seriously or not that serious.
Okay. So basically, any instance of trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, besides the car accident that we've already touched on, can you share any other particular incidences that have significantly affected your mental health?
I wouldn't have said any other besides that one, but I have had people flatline on me, which means they lose their pulse and there's no sense of reviving them. They basically give up on them. It's kind of hard to explain.
Now, with those incidences, what actions have you taken, or have, better yet, what actions does the department offer to your peers for those types of incidences?
Well, where I come from, it's more of a small department, so we really ain't got a lot, so it's more the state that handles it, or they'll point you to like a therapist or something. But a lot of it we really just have to put on our shoulders, which is the sad thing about volunteer firefighting. You just kind of got to carry it. The state doesn't like to do a lot with it unless you go to them. They don't really give you a lot of options unless you actually go to them and you're like, hey, I got this on my mind. I need to talk to somebody about it.
Okay, so unless you reach out, they don't already have a list of resources readily available,
Yeah.
already placed up in the stations?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in your experience, how do first responders, especially ones that you are familiar with and work with on a daily basis, how do y'all cope with the traumatic events, both immediately and in the long term?
Well, I can't really speak for my peers because I don't really talk to them outside of calls. But for me, long term is I don't know. Basically, if you have a religion, stick to it. That usually helps me. Get out in nature as much as you can. Just do something that kind of brings your mind off of it, and it usually helps the best.
Okay. Now, what about the immediate?
The immediate, I don't know really. I mean, most of the time I just kind of try my best to deal with it and keep it off my mind as much as I can. Do something that occupies you the most as you can.
Okay, so we're going to delve into that one just a little bit deeper, if you don't mind. So, when you are dealing with a patient and they start to flatline, which in itself can trigger a traumatic experience, in that immediate moment, what tools in your mind would you use to cope with it in order to continue providing service to that patient?
Well, most of the time I mean, it's like you get an adrenaline rush when stuff like that happens. So first thing that goes to my mind is usually just keep going and just hope and pray that they get a pulse back. Just keep doing your job and just do your best to try to do anything to help.
Okay. Basically just working on keeping your mind focused on the task at
Yeah.
hand and then worry about your own well-being and mentalness later on.
Yeah, well, that's just happens to me because when stuff like that happens, I just like focus in and everything else goes quiet.
Yeah. Like everyone reacts differently. That's why we try to delve in a little bit deeper on exactly what we do in those aspects, because it can lead to greater awakening in others who are still suffering in some stuff. But
Yeah.
in other terms, what misconceptions do you think the public has about PTSD and first responders?
It's sad to say it, but some people think that firefighters don't have much of it because a lot of people just think firefighters go to fires. They don't know that the EMS work with them too, and they're basically first responders, so they don't see as much as like police officers or military or stuff like that.
That is very true. I have known many people who go, "Oh, you're not in the military, you can't suffer from PTSD."
Yeah,
And that's a horrible misconception, but that's
yeah,
also
it
where
is.
the stigma arises.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the stigma later on in this episode. Are there any other misconceptions you think the public has about PTSD and first responders other than they can't be affected by PTSD?
No, that's basically all I could think of, to be honest.
Okay. I'd probably throw in that a small percentage of our society has the stigmatization of it's not really a form of PTSD, but more of a weakness in the mind.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Now we are going into the educational component of this. So now that we have set the stage, it's time to roll up our sleeves and get into the nitty-gritty of today's discussion. Let's explore the often overlooked world of PTSD, what it is, how it manifests, and the specific challenges that our brave first responders like Alex encounter on a daily basis. Alrighty, folks, let's go ahead and dive deeper into this topic at hand, PTSD. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is PTSD? Well, in simple terms, PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is a mental health condition triggered by experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event. For some, it's like a shadow that follows them long after the crisis has passed, leading to a host of symptoms that can include flashbacks, severe anxiety, nightmares, and uncontrollable thoughts about that trauma. It's kind of like being haunted, but instead of spooky ghosts, it's those heart-wrenching moments that just won't let go. Now, just to give you some perspective, did you know that nearly 20% of firefighters experience PTSD in their lifetime? And if that number doesn't send chills down your spine, consider this. First responders are at a uniquely heightened risk due to the nature of their work. Every time they race into the fray, they're not just risking their lives, they're also exposing themselves to unfathomable situations that can leave lasting emotional scars. So, what are some of these common sources of trauma in firefighting and emergency response? Well, imagine yourself responding to a house fire, only to find a trapped victim inside, or facing the aftermath of a horrific car accident. These are intense, life-altering scenarios that don't just mentally drain our heroes, they can linger in their minds like an unwanted guest that overstays their welcome. Alex and I will be unpacking these experiences more as we talk, but it's crucial to understand that PTSD isn't just a personal struggle, it's a collective issue that affects teams, families, and communities as a whole. So let's break it down further and explore this important and often stigmatized conversation. Now, Alex, could you share your insights on how these traumatic events have impacted you and your fellow firefighters?
A lot of it comes from like the car wrecks, like I said earlier. I say the inside of it is just like what we see on a daily basis. Some of us don't even get to respond to the calls, but a lot of us also do because we're a small apartment. But the traumatic events, you can see it sometimes. I mean, we roll upon accidents that people have passed away and stuff like that. You can kind of look over to your fellow firefighters and look at their face or look in their eyes, and you can just tell if it's changed their whole entire mood. It can, I mean, it can be anywhere from, the traumatic event of 9/11, which happened about 23 years ago. That gave plenty of people PTSD, depression. That was an extremely bad traumatic experience for first responders, civilians, medical, police, everybody. Just America as a whole was a traumatic experience. For my generation, since I'm a younger generation, it doesn't really affect us, but it still sticks. It's still, it's the never forget. But I say it don't affect my generation as much as it did when 9/11 actually happened, because we weren't around to see it. So it wouldn't affect us as bad as the other. Anyway, yeah, that's one of the most traumatic experiences America's had. That's definitely how I could see it, the insights of it.
I mean, we could even walk that down into the generational trauma, because even though your generation wasn't fully there or old enough to be fully impacted by it, that type of trauma can be passed down generationally. The effects that it caused the people who actually witnessed it and been through it, like those firefighters and first responders, 9/11 would have impacted them and their family in the aspect of if they didn't get help and work through that trauma, they could easily pass that down into their families, being overly precautious due to planes flying near taller buildings, sounds of explosions, even a sound of the airplane flying overhead would trigger them. And that's some aspects and insights that most society doesn't realize is the generational traumas that get passed down. Like, you can go back to any of the world wars and even our own Civil War. All of that generational trauma gets passed down because the families haven't worked through it or had resources to even try to work through it. And then it leaves our younger generation just messed up in the head because they don't even realize that they have an issue.
Yeah.
But that will lead us back into our second segment, which would be on the personal journey, especially with depression.
Yes.
Jumping straight into it, Can you share your personal journey with depression and what led you to recognize that you needed support?
Yeah, when I first, my journey was, noticed it right around me turning probably around 13, about to enter high school, about a year before I entered high school. It started getting to me pretty good. I still can't really figure out where it was from, but I've always felt down, just never wanting to get out of the house. And usually, I'm like, heck yeah, I'll go outside just to do nothing, just walk around, throw rocks and kick rocks and throw sticks or something. But then I just didn't want to get out of the house, didn't want to do nothing. I always stayed in my room. Sometimes I'll just sit in my room and do nothing, not have the TV on, just kind of lay in my bed and just stare at the ceiling. After about a year of that, I'm like, yeah, I need to do something about this. So I was like, I don't really want to tell my parents because, I don't want them to be concerned about me. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go talk to the school counselor. And I talked to them, and they're like, yeah, we can try our best to get you set up with a therapist. I was like, okay. And since I have ADHD, I have a therapist. So I'm like, is it the same therapist? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna talk to them. And then I talked to the therapist, and then started to get a little better, and then I didn't go on a regular routine, and then it started back up.
Yeah, you kind of gotta, if you're going with therapists, it's always best to stick with the program because they tend to do the long route, which is understandable because you have to build the rapport with your patient because you can't expect someone just to walk in and then dump their whole life story straight on you. You're a stranger, especially with teenagers. Like I remember when I was a teenager and I went into therapy for my first time. Like I didn't even know the guy. I didn't trust him. I was like, I ain't talking to you. I don't know you. And it took us about 3 months to end up building a rapport to where I started opening up slowly. And those routes are great because you end up finding the underlying problems of what's starting everything. Like in your case, that would have been depression that led into mental isolation because you quit doing the things that you actually enjoy doing, like going out, walking, tossing rocks, walking through the woods.
Yeah.
It's like once your depression takes over a certain hold into your mind, you start getting to the point where you're like, why am I here? Like, why has all of this happened to everyone around me? I'm talking in like my case right here. So
yeah,
it's like, why am I still here when everyone around me was in a better standing of a place, yet they got taken away?
Yeah.
Why am I so special that I'm still here and I can never understand it? So I ended up just falling into a depression because it's like, I don't understand why my friends are gone, but I'm still here and I was doing worse stuff than them.
Yeah.
And then I just go into an isolation phase where I won't do anything I like doing. I'll lock myself up. And in turn, when I actually start into my isolation phase is when I start deep diving into my own mind to figure out why am I doing this. And 9 out of 10 times it's because I feel as if I was given an opportunity that I feel I don't deserve. And so I'll punish myself by taking myself away from society and not giving myself the benefits of society that we need, like open communication, talking with strangers, or anything like that. It's like we are social creatures. We need those types of interactions.
Yeah.
But we're starting to get off point. I start rambling. I'm sorry. We'll go to the next question. So, what was your turning point? Or what helped you begin to find your way out of depression?
Well, I don't know. After a while, I'm just like, man, I really need to do something about this. And the therapist did help a lot. So when I would go to school, I would try to pitch in help do everything, do stuff in my community, help out, even if I didn't want to, I'd force myself. In therapy, and that helped a lot. Just like you were saying about the social, I mean, helping out in the community, you're getting in social interactions. I would hang out with my friends a lot more. And yeah, I mean, that helps a lot. Just being social, hanging out with your buddies and your friends.
Social experiences boost morale, and if you have a good support system as well, the social experiences boost your livelihood by so much, because you will end up having safe space to actually communicate your emotions and feelings with
Yeah.
no judgment. And that actually ties into the I think it was episode 2 or 3, the mindful communicator.
Yeah.
I go deep in on that. I'm big on safe spaces for communication on feelings and emotions, because you have to be able to get them out. Now, following on that, how did your experiences in firefighting influence your mental health struggles?
Well, more at the time, I wasn't really into firefighting because this was more my high school era. But I did have some mental issues a little bit from, like I said, my buddy passing away in a car wreck. That definitely set me back a little bit. And just like I said earlier, the EMS calls that you never want to respond to, listen to certain stuff on the radio, just basic stuff like that. I mean, some of the basic stuff from firefighting can, put you back where you thought you got past, but some stuff can set you back just like in the snap of a finger.
We're going to delve just a little bit deeper into there. Your experiences from going from your high school, dealing with the depression and isolation, and then moving into actually firefighting and going on calls. With those transitions and dealing with your therapist and working on ways to deal with your depression and cope with it, the experiences that you faced with firefighting, in what ways have they influenced your mental health struggles? Like, have they set you back so far where you forget most of the work and progress that you can take through your therapy sessions? Or have the therapy sessions, in correlation with the more influential experiences in firefighting, have you had better chances of not reverting back so far, but just minor setbacks, or have they been like full-fledged setbacks?
I say the one with my buddy was the one that did a major setback, but some of like the other stuff, it was just like a little step back. It's like a shock, just like a shock to the system. It kind of sets you back.
Okay.
But my buddy, that's what kicked me back real far. Even to where I stopped going to therapy sessions and stuff.
Major traumatic experiences like that will cause that.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what strategies or practices have you found to be most effective in managing your depression?
Like I said earlier, getting out in the community, helping, hanging around with your friends, forcing yourself to do stuff you don't want to do, get out of your comfort zone. It helps a lot, especially if you have social anxiety. But yeah, that, just like forcing yourself to do stuff that you wouldn't usually do, getting out of your comfort zone, as long as it ain't like dangerous or anything. Just like speaking in front of people, going outside when you don't really want to, hanging out with people, meeting new people, stuff like that.
All right. Now we're going to break this down a little bit more and make you think a little bit harder. What strategies or practices have you found to be most effective in managing your depression alone? So if you don't have social groups to go out to, if you don't have your community at that exact moment.
Well, solo, I think hobbies help a lot because I do a lot of hobbies. Just like I play guitar, I hunt, fish, stuff like that. But I think hobbies helped it a lot because they bring it off your mind. Meditating, it might sound a little corny, but meditating does help.
I'm a big believer in meditation and grounding exercises.
Yeah.
And if you haven't tried those, I would always highly suggest grounding exercises.
I don't think they're basically the same thing as meditation.
Basically, they're in the same zone, but grounding exercises, you're basically taking all of your five senses and then bringing them all center mass, and it helps guide you and bring you back down to actual reality.
Yeah.
I love them, but I don't know if I have any of those in for today, but I've gone over them a lot in our last few episodes. Now, next, were there any resources or support systems that played a crucial role in your recovery with depression?
Probably therapy. Therapy helped a lot. Like it's like it's a new person. You get to meet them, and like I kind of know them because they helped my sister, so I was a little bit more comfortable with them.
Okay.
So I think therapy helped a lot. That was probably one of the best resources.
And did you have a good support system alongside of your therapy?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Support systems are a must-have. Like, I always start with the family. Like, open up to the family. You'll be amazed at how many more resources and how much wider your support system webs out.
Yeah, it can be hard too.
It can be excruciatingly hard.
Yeah, it was for me.
That's one misconception about the whole recovery journey in general is people go like, oh, well, it should be easy. Like, no. It's hard as shit because you're stuck in a mind setting of, if I open up to them, I don't know how they're truly going to respond. And if it goes negative, that's just going to shoot me down even further. And then there will be no escape.
Yeah, I feel like opening to your friends first would be easier, and it would like give you like a kickstart. Yeah. You know what I mean?
As long as they're actual friends, not acquaintances.
Exactly.
But that's hard for the younger generation to know the difference between, quite honestly. I remember when I was a teenager, I thought everybody was my friend that hung out around me, and turns out they're nothing more than just acquaintances. As soon as they found out the truth, it just went downhill from there, and they used most of the information I gave them against me than to help me. It was like,
yeah. Luckily, none of my friends have done that, so I think they're pretty good friends.
Hey, that's good, all in its own right there. Now let's get into this. How do you respond to someone who might say, just think positively when facing a mental health challenge?
Just think positively. I feel like people that say that, a lot of them haven't went through mental health challenges because it's extremely hard to think positively when you're in that state of mind.
Yeah. Not only would I say that they probably haven't gone through it, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would probably, me personally, I would go on the route of they haven't worked through their issues internally enough to be able to be like, hey, you can't just think positively. That's like putting a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
But in the other aspect of it, and the other aspect of it, I would look at it, and if you're telling me just to think positively, it would, especially in the terms of depression or PTSD, I would look at it as the fact of you are someone I cannot talk to because you seem like someone who is just going to react rather than actually respond.
Yeah.
And that's a difference that a lot of people don't truly understand between reacting and responding.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and jump into the educational component of depression. So, as we dive deeper into the realm of mental health, let's shift our focus to an increasingly widespread issue that often flies under the radar: depression. What's fascinating and a bit alarming is how depression doesn't wear the same mask for everyone. In fact, it manifests quite differently across various age groups. And today, I want to shine a light on two particular demographics teens and the older adults. Let's start off with our vibrant teens. Adolescence is a roller coaster of emotions, which can sometimes feel like a never-ending loop-de-loop. From social pressures to academic expectations, it's a challenging time. But what's even more challenging is that many teens may mask their depression with irritability or withdrawal, often confused for typical teenage anguish. Now, picture this. A young person spends more time scrolling through social media than engaging in face to face conversations. And while we might brush it off as just a phase, it could be a warning sign that something deeper is brewing. Tragically, this can lead to feelings of isolation, which only amplifies their distress. Now, shifting gears, let's talk about our older adults. For them, depression can often masquerade as a natural part of aging or mistaken for something physical, such as fatigue, chronic aches, and pains. The elderly can feel a profound sense of loss of loved ones, independence, or even purpose. Often, they might not even realize that it's depression they're dealing with. Instead, interpreting their feelings as just getting old. Let's face it, folks. Aging can be as tough as a $2 steak. But regardless of age, there's a common theme that runs between these groups: stigma. Sadly, mental health issues continue to carry a heavy weight of misunderstanding and judgment. For teens, there's that anxiety of being labeled as broken or weak in a world that glorifies toughness. Meanwhile, older adults may feel hesitant to open up about their struggles or fear of being seen as a burden or worse, losing their autonomy. As a society, we've baked in barriers to seeking help, whether it's irrational fears about how others will perceive them, or simply not knowing where to turn. These obstacles can feel insurmountable, but here's the kicker. Acknowledging these feelings is the first step towards healing. Alex, how do you see this stigma play out in your experience as a firefighter, especially when it comes to mental health and support within your community?
Well, our department, like I said, it was small. It's volunteer, so we don't get a lot of resources unless it's from, the state or the county or something. But in the station, we don't really have anything, like we don't have any numbers, or and like on the Facebook page we don't have any mental health support. Nobody really posts anything about it. So really we have to go through the state or the county and make it basically publicly heard, not between, privately, between the therapist and you. It's mostly public to the state. So the thing is, when you tell the state, the thing that goes through my head is like, well, do they think I'm able to be a firefighter anymore? What if they think I'm not mentally fit and they kick me off? What if they don't think, I can get my head straight back into the game, or I won't heal from this? What if they think that and they just kick me off? And then, yeah, basically, I think it's kind of messed up that do that. Like, why don't you just give us some resources that we can do privately? Because personally, me, I don't like to be rude, but I don't think it's none of their business at all.
Yeah. The only time I can see it being any of the state's business is if the therapist that is providing the help notices that these symptoms can be dangerous to not only the individual, but also to the community. To where if they're so far gone, then yeah, I can see the state stepping in and going like, hey, we're just going to put you on administrative leave for now.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about just like basic mental
Yeah, no,
health.
they should have
in
those
general.
resources listed out on a bulletin board next to your rights as an employee.
Right next to like, yeah, just, I don't see why they got a bulletin board, and I don't know why they just like don't print off a couple things and, you know, staple it on there. It's right next to the entrance too, so.
Well, that actually leads us right into segment 3, helping others and finding motivation. So, Alex, what motivates you to help others who are struggling with mental health issues?
What motivates me is from what I experience, someone could be going through worse or less, but I hate seeing people in a dark place. Especially if they went through something like me, you know, just cooped up in a room all day. I hate to see people in that state, you know, especially if they're one of my buddies or a family member. It's just like the worst thing to see in there. So you can ask them most of the time, they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. I'm just sick today, or I got a cold, or something like that, or just, you know, I don't feel the best." I'm like, "Okay, you sure?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, if you need to talk to me, I'm free anytime you need me." And they're like, "Okay." And then sometimes they never answer you back, or sometimes, you know, they're like, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something." I'm like, "What?" And they kind of just let up to you. And I try to be not judgmental at all. That's my abilities, or try to not look judgmental. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I just like to help other people as much as I can. Just like going around giving money to the homeless. I feel extremely good about myself.
Okay. So basically, what motivates you is the strong urge to not see others suffer in either the way that you have suffered, or that's good motivation. If I do say so myself, it's about what I'm doing. It's like I'm giving back to the community, even though when I was struggling, the community didn't give to me. But that's why I'm doing what I do. It's like, as long as I can reach at least one person who's still struggling and give them the motivation and information to push through, then I did a good job. That's how I feel.
I see it as like the saying of like, always do good even if no one's watching.
Yeah. It falls into the other saying of, it's normally the broken ones that are trying to help fix everyone.
Yeah, exactly, because no one helps them.
Now, can you share any specific instances where you felt you made a real difference in someone's life?
Let's see. Probably one of my buddy's girlfriends once. She was me and her are basically best friends now. But she was in a dark, dark place with like her family. Her mom and dad were going through tough times and everything. And I ain't gonna say her name for privacy reasons, but
understandable.
Yeah, I helped her as much as I could. I talked to her in school. I always checked up on her, and she started to come out to me and say, "Yeah, I mean, like, I'll try my best to help you as much as I can. There's some stuff I can't do, but because I'm not a therapist, but I'll do everything in my power to help you as much as I can." And yeah, she's doing really good now. She's got a good job now, and she's happy. She's got a good boyfriend now, and I'm like, yeah. And we still talk to each other sometimes, every once in a while.
Awesome. Now, what advice would you give to someone who is hesitant to seek help?
Probably do it very slow, if you get what I mean. Like,
to ask you to elaborate a little bit on that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how I could elaborate deeper onto it. I guess do it slowly, like if you have actual friends. Maybe talk to them, and then you guys talk back and forth for a while, and then maybe if you're in school and you go to school counselor, maybe you and your buddy could go up and talk to him, and your buddy can be there to give you, some kind of comfort, and then you both could talk to him. Or I don't know if you should get your buddy to talk to them for you, but if that's like the last chance, then I'd say yeah.
Okay.
Or last option.
Most definitely. One other thing I would probably throw in for people who are hesitant to seek help, and starting slow would probably further redefine in some aspects. If you are hesitant on knowing which ones of your friends groups that you can actually open up to and have an honest, structured conversation, then I would start off with hypothetical questions just to analyze their actual answers. And then slowly from there, start off with some of the issues that are haunting you that are more minuscule in your mind. That way, you don't feel as if you are just cutting open and opening up your entire self and leaving yourself extremely vulnerable. You would start off with more of the smaller issues and then work up as you progress and seeing how your friends are, one, absorbing the information, two, their body language after they absorb the information, and then three, their criticism that they give back or the responses that they give. If they seem more like a reaction response instead of more logical response, then I would veer away from actually opening up fully to those types of individuals. And if you don't know the difference between emotional response and a logical response, then I would refer y'all back to episode 2 and 3. Now, going from there, how do you incorporate motivation and positivity in your daily routine?
Well, the motivation part, I work out, so that gives me a lot of motivation. Just anything from the simplest, go on YouTube and look at motivational speech. I mean, like, that will get you going if you pick the right one. It gets me going, so.
Okay. How about positivity?
Positivity, just doing the simplest things of, making other people's days better. I don't know about anybody else, but that gets my positivity going. That will make me feel positive, putting a positive impact on my community, helping out during the community. Obviously, you can't do that every day sometimes, but just like little things, just like, I don't know, texting your buddies, keep in contact with them, hang out with them,
Oh, yeah. I mean, shoot. You can even
even
go
call
your elderly neighbors and just sit there and chit chat with them because
help them out with yard work,
that too.
chit chat with them, help them out.
If you want to spread even more positivity, this is one I actually love doing, and I do it a lot. Besides hospice, going into hospice houses and just sitting down and talking with the patients. I'll also go to nursing homes and assisted living facilities just to figure out which individuals have not had steady family come in and chat with them, and then just go and sit down and just have a conversation. Sometimes that is all those people need, and it brings the biggest smiles to some of them. I remember when I was living in Washington, no, my bad, Oregon, yeah, because that's where Screaming Mimi was. That's what the entire nursing facility called her, was Screaming Mimi. And that poor lady didn't really have family come out and talk to her. My mom was working as a nurse there, and it was a miracle because I just came in one day just to chat with my mom because she was working the night shift, and Screaming Mimi just started going off. And so I just walked over there, sat down next to her in another wheelchair, and me and her just started having a conversation. And for that whole night, she never screamed after that. And my mom was like, "Can you come in more?" And it's like, yeah, it's like, I love talking with them. It's like, I don't understand. Like, that's one of the biggest things on society that I could never understand. It's like, how can you put your family member into a home, just forget about them?
Yeah, that's you see it at the nursing home at my town too. Because my mom used to work there too, and she used to do night shift too. And she's seen people that would sit there basically on their last couple weeks or last couple months or something. their family never comes in and check in with them or nothing. They just kind of leave them there to abandon them.
It's horrible, but that's when I started
Yeah,
doing it myself. I was like, I'll go sit with y'all.
yeah, give them some company at least.
It makes them feel good, and it also makes me feel good because, like, I'll tell you right now, there is nothing better than an old person with a big old shit-eating grin just because you're just sitting there listening to them talk. And it's like, I can understand a lot of people don't like doing it, especially for the individuals who are suffering from dementia. And it's like, but honestly, those people are amazing to talk to because all you got to do is live in their reality, like 100%. Like my grandma, rest her soul, she passed away a couple of years ago, but she suffered from dementia as she started progressing, and we moved her out from Oregon to out here where we're at now. And we just gave her the best last few months she could possibly have. But my God, there was sometimes I'd come in and she thought I was my grandpa and started talking to me, and I'd just be like, well, I'm not grandpa, but I'll sit here and I'll chit chat with you like I am grandpa. I'm not going to sit there and correct you because that's just going to damage your mind even more than what's already happening. Like if you reach into them and be like, yo, come back to reality, that's not how you deal with dementia. And that's horrible. But we got off topic. I'm sorry. Next question is, could you discuss how sharing your story has impacted others, in your opinion?
Well, right now I don't know if it's actually helped anybody else because this is like one of my first times actually sharing it publicly. But I'd like people to take from it the steps, or any other first responders that don't have as much, resources like my department does, or just people in general, hopefully they follow the same steps as me and can get help. And just like get help as soon as they can. Get them back in a good state of mind as fast as possible at a steady pace.
Now, this last question for this segment is a little kicker, but given your position, you have, especially firefighting, you have a great position to have a wonderful perspective. I just want to know, in your words, in what ways have you seen the younger generation addressing mental health issues compared to the older generations?
I feel like the older generations, they're like throw some dirt on it, you'll be fine. I feel like I don't know how to say it. It's like, they're like, you'll be fine.
Another way to put that is how most of us were raised, where it's, you are meant to be.
Yeah. I wasn't really, my mom is a lot more in depth with like the newer generation than my dad is, because my dad's older. He's old fashioned. Love him to death, but he's old fashioned.
All right. You want to dive any further on that one, on that question?
The younger
You're good.
My bad, I forgot about that. Younger, I feel like they have a lot more resources than the older generations too. I don't think therapy was a big thing back about 40 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. I feel like it wasn't a really big thing. Even like, I don't know, like these early 80s, late 80s, I feel like therapy wasn't the huge thing like it is now. There wasn't as many resources.
There wasn't as many case studies. I think a lot of the case studies were horrid, but I'm not going to jump into that rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, later time.
All right. Any further you want to expand on that question, or you feel pretty good with what you got? All right.
I feel pretty good with it.
So now that we have explored the landscape of mental health, including how depression manifests differently across age groups and the stigma that often serves as a barrier to seeking help, let's shift gears and talk about something a bit more uplifting: the action steps we can take to support ourselves and each other. First off, let's talk about community resources. Many towns and cities have mental health organizations that provide free or low-cost services. Start by checking out your community center or local health department. They often have listings of resources available. Many places also offer hotlines that you can call for immediate support. Think of them as your mental health safety net. These helplines offer a compassionate ear and can guide you towards the next best steps, whether that's finding a therapist or joining a support group. Next up, let's delve into the value of peer support systems. This is where the magic happens, folks. Connecting with others who understand what you're going through can be tremendously comforting. Many communities have peer-led support groups, and you can find them at local therapy practices, churches, or your community centers. These groups provide a non-judgmental space where you can share experiences and strategies, learn from one another, and perhaps even forge lasting friendships. Trust me, sometimes the best therapy is just sitting down with someone who gets it over a cup of coffee. Additionally, if you're part of an organization, don't hesitate to look for any help, especially through the employee assistant programs or EAPs that might be available. These programs often offer confidential counseling services free of charge, a fantastic option for folks who might be hesitant about seeking help. Also, advocating for mental health resources within your organization can help normalize these conversations and create a culture of support. So be that change maker. Lastly, let's not forget about the importance of self-care. This might look a bit different for everyone. Some might find peace in yoga or meditation, while others prefer hitting the gym or enjoying a hobby they love. Remember, it doesn't have to be one grand gesture. Small, consistent acts of self-care can lead to profound changes. Now, I want to emphasize that reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness. It's an empowered decision to take charge of your mental health. Imagine if we all made just one small effort to support someone in need, whether it's checking in on a friend, attending a community event together, or simply sharing a mental health resource. We could create ripples of positivity that could make a real difference. So let's take these actionable steps and weave them into the fabric of our daily lives. Together, we can dismantle the stigma and break down those barriers. Now, Alex, in your experience, what's one action step you've taken that helped foster community, support, or mental wellness?
One step that I've taken to help my community most of the time, so my community is different from the fire department I work for or volunteer for. But the community I live in right now, the best resources for them is we have amazing, like a 4-star, 4.5-star therapist that gets out and they get out a lot, they advertise, they just get out and try to get in the community as much as they can. Me, I've tried my best to pitch in and, kind of spread the word a little bit as much as I can. I've helped out with, like the churches. I've helped put up posters for, guidance and stuff because they have mental health resources too, the church itself. So I help put out flyers and I help hand out like flyers and stuff as much as I can.
Okay. So you're taking a lot of action steps to help foster community support and mental wellness. That's good. Getting out there and being one with the community. Only thing I would suggest is you work on bringing those two communities together, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
The fact that you deal with them on a daily basis makes them a part of that community. So combining those two communities together, all that actually internally does is widen the support group, as well as gives you more branches to reach out and actually have a stronger effort of breaking the stigma. So that's the only other thing I would suggest in that aspect, is combining the two communities into one giant support network of community. Which leads us to segment 4, which is breaking the stigma. And we're going to jump right into this. And remember, if you have any questions about the question, you feel free to ask. Like, I don't want any misconstruities whatsoever. So the first question for this segment is, how do you think stigma plays a role in first responders not seeking help for mental health issues?
Well, I could compare it from what I talked about earlier, is the 9/11. I mean, like, most of them probably didn't want to go to therapists because people would be like, yeah, you're a firefighter, you have to deal with this. You shouldn't have to go to therapy. You're not a real firefighter. You can't, deal with that. You're supposed to be strong, mentally. But yeah, it's just like society is kind of, we're at first responders, and if you're a firefighter or a cop or EMS or military, even military especially, if you try to go mental health and people say it's like, what's the point? You're supposed to be strong. Why do you even do this if you're not strong enough to not deal with it? And people think we're all tough and mighty, but we're basically the same as the average Joe. I mean, we just put on a uniform and we got knowledge,
You're just another human being. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. We just put on a uniform and we got training to save people.
Now, what are some ways you've successfully started conversations about mental health with your peers?
Being real close with them, just like, I don't know, usually it's just an average conversation, and somehow it just turns out to be something like that. Just like chatting on a regular day, and you're like, if you ever notice something, weird about them, I guess that would be an instance to, kind of bring it up. Not like directly hit him with it, like, yeah, you need to go get mental health. Be like, talk about it.
So you're using your awareness skills to be able to see that there's been a change in their said actions.
Not just like hit them right up and, be like, hey, you there's something wrong with you, you need to go get help.
Okay. Now, we're going to get into a fun aspect of this. Can you share an example of how social media has influenced discussions around mental health?
I feel like there's a lot more people now that have depression, and they share it on the internet, which can be good, can be bad, because there's a lot of cyberbullies and stuff out there that like to, feed off that stuff. But yeah, I mean, there is a lot of people that, just want to give help to people, Just like you post on Instagram, be like, hey, I'm going through a tough time. A lot of people want to help you. But there's also the people that want to make fun of you, tell you to do a step to yourself, which is sad.
So, in other words, certain ways social media has influenced the discussions would be a lot of people being able to have more wider net of individuals instead of just small localized communities and support groups. It is now more widespread and everyone is now connected.
Yeah.
Which gives it its ups and downs. You got people that are willing to help and people who are just trying to troll.
Yeah. It has the pros and cons. I feel like wide or local. I mean, if you post it in a group, just like of your area, I feel like it still has pros and cons.
What advice do you have for someone who wants to support a friend but doesn't know how to approach the topic?
I feel like just like getting a conversation with them and kind of go in and out with the questions, with like soft questions. You know what I mean?
All right. So we were on what advice do you have for someone who wants to support a friend but doesn't know how to actually approach the topic?
Yeah, I feel like just like start a regular conversation with them and just kind of go in and out with the question. Just like you're having a regular conversation, talk to them regularly, but kind of find a way to kind of trail off from the conversation and talk about it. But hit it with like questions.
So basically giving them some open-ended questions that are soft but not punching it right on its nose, going like
Yeah.
more along the lines of one open-ended question could honestly be, hey, I noticed that your behavior has changed recently. Is everything going on okay in your life? Is there anything you want to, anything you need? I wouldn't necessarily start with anything you need to talk about, but just start off more or less asking them if there is anything they need, which in itself is an open-ended question because it could be like, hey, do you need someone to talk to? Do you just need to vent? Do you, like, it could be anything, but that's normally the first open-ended question I'd always ask people if I started noticing a change in their behavior. Is just like, hey, anything you need, buddy? Like, just remember, I'm always here, no matter what. That's one way you can start the conversation to start delving in a little bit. Now, in your opinion, what are the most effective methods to educate the public about the importance of mental health care?
The most effective ways, I used to do an old-fashioned, speak out, handing out anything from handing out flyers, going up to talk to people personally, publicly, just, talking about it. I guess a lot of it can come from school. If you're in school still, they still have the assemblies about it. They still have, there's a thing at my school where if you have it taped, there's like this thing taped on the wall and you pull a tag off of it and it has a number you can call privately. And they'll call you up to the office privately and then you can talk to the person or you can call the number.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've been out of school for so long. I'm like, what?
I'm finishing my last year.
That's good. Now, besides that one method, what other methods do you think are most effective on educating the public?
Social media could help.
Social media is a very good tool.
And yeah, like the podcast we're on right now, especially anywhere from TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Just post about it and be like, hey, if you need someone to talk to, come talk to me. Just DM me and I can point you to a specific person and they can get you a lot of help. Or, just something like that, something simple.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going into the last question for this segment, which is going to be a fun one, and you can think about it a little bit, but how do you think your openness about your struggles can encourage others to share their experiences?
I feel like it could motivate people if you're open about yourself, and especially in like if it's a public setting, like they got like I've never actually seen it before, but they got like the group things they do where you sit in a circle of chairs, group therapy sessions. I think that's what it's called.
Support groups, a lot of them. I've been to NA a lot, and that's the exact type of structure. We all sit around a table in a circular fashion, or we'll sit in open area in a circular fashion and then work around sharing our stories.
Yeah, I feel like that would give other people motivation, be like, hey, you know what? I think I can do this.
Yeah. I'll say one thing about those type of settings, because I remember when I first went to NA, I didn't share. I won't lie. I was more dumbfounded and starstruck on the fact that I just came into a place and all of the stories and personal experiences I've just listened to personally from these people relate so much to what I was going through at the time that just blew me away, because I sat there for so long thinking, like, why do I need to go to these groups? No one else understands truly what I've been going through. No one can relate to any of this. So how can I truly get any help? It's like I'm just stuck. Like there's nothing I can do. And then I was lucky enough to have my mom come with me on my first one, and I was just blown away. Like I was borderline tears. I got into tears when we left the building and got into the truck, because I was just like, holy, I just found a place where there is a whole group of people who actually understand. And then the next day, the next time I went, I was right there sharing right along with them. And as I saw newer people come in, they were going through the same thing I went through. And I could see that shift in their eyes as we started talking. And sure enough, the next session, they started talking. And it's when you're in a group like that, and it just opens your mind up to like, I'm not alone. And that right there is the biggest tool in breaking the stigmas, is allowing people to realize you're not alone.
Yeah, you're never alone.
So now we can jump in if you don't have any other pieces to add to that question. We can jump straight into the educational segment component of this segment. All right, folks.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's shift our focus to a topic that gets everyone talking: social media. Love it or hate it, there's no denying that social media plays a monumental role in how we communicate about mental health these days. The way we interact has transformed dramatically. It's no longer just about sharing cute cat videos or the latest dance challenge. It's about creating spaces for vulnerability and open dialogue. And let's be real, what better way to reduce stigma than to start a conversation right in our own backyard, or rather, on our screens? When people share their experiences with mental health on platforms like Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, they're breaking down the walls that society has built over decades. For instance, when public figures, whether they're celebrities, athletes, or even influencers, talk about their battles with depression, anxiety, or any mental health issue, it sends a powerful message. It says, you're not alone. By normalizing these conversations, we start to dismantle that pesky stigma that has kept so many people quiet for far too long. Suddenly, it becomes fashionable to be open about mental health, and that's pretty darn revolutionary. Now, let's take a moment to spotlight some phenomenal initiatives that are setting the bar high for mental health awareness campaigns. One shining example is the hashtag Bell Let's Talk campaign in Canada, launched by Bell Canada. This initiative encourages people to talk about mental health openly. Each year, on a designated day, Bell donates money to mental health programs for every social media post, text, or call made using the hashtag. It's like a social media text. It's like a social media money generating machine for awareness. How cool is that? Another fantastic initiative is the Time to Change campaign in the UK. This campaign is all about challenging mental health stigma by encouraging individuals to share personal stories and to have open conversations about mental health in their communities. It's not just about talking, It's about taking action and fostering an inclusive environment where everyone feels safe to express how they're feeling. They've been known to put up eye-catching billboards and advertisements with real stories from real people, inviting others to join the conversation. UK is getting pretty good. And let's not forget about the Mental Health Awareness Month, observed in May in the US. It's a whole month dedicated to raising awareness and providing resources for those affected by mental health challenges. Organizations all over the country participate with campaigns, events, and workshops aimed at educating the masses. Social media is ablaze with hashtags like hashtag mental health awareness and hashtag break the stigma, inviting everyone to join in on the dialogue. So, while social media can sometimes feel like a double-edged sword, some days it's the best place to share what we had for lunch, and other days it feels like a digital battleground. We have the power to shape it into a positive tool for awareness and support. When we participate in these initiatives and help spread the word, we're contributing to a culture where mental health is prioritized, discussed, and normalized. Alex, have you come across any online movements or campaigns that have resonated with you? If so, how can we incorporate those ideas in our community?
Yeah, the mental health matters and like the hashtag mental health matters, hashtag break the stigma, all that. And the mental health matters one a lot more than I can count, probably. I wish they would be a lot more kind of like still stay on social medias, but somehow like more into like our communities. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so
Like there's a way they can be spread into our communities more than social media.
like being able to take the hashtag opportunities and create a section within your community, whether it be once a month or so, and have like an area where
Yeah.
your entire community can gather up together and have like a expose on mental health and resources available.
Yeah, that's trying to get
Okay.
across basically.
That would honestly be a wonderful way to incorporate those types of ideas in our community.
Yeah,
I
I
would
think that'd
say
be pretty
the
cool.
best way to actually take action on incorporating those into the community would be, if you're in church, start with addressing it to your pastor, asking him if he could help set up with his resources within the political sphere of your communities and get something like that set up. That would be the best way to get a foot in the door. Another way would be if you are currently talking to a therapist, you can discuss that type of opportunity with the therapist to see if they can gather their resources and hold educational expose. So there's about two simple ways to go about incorporating the hashtag movements into communities.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go ahead and jump into the educational segment of segment 5, which is audience engagement and resources. So I'm going to talk for a bit and then we'll get straight into the last bit of interview questions for you. All right. Got my breath in. Let me get a drink. So sorry, people. Coca-Cola. I'm not sponsored.
We need a sponsor.
For real. All right, my friends. Let's take a moment to hit pause and turn the spotlight inward. It is self-reflection time. Now, I know what you're thinking. Self-reflection? That sounds heavy. but bear with me because this is where the magic happens. And trust me, it doesn't always have to be all serious business. First off, let's ask ourselves a couple important questions. How can you support yourself or a loved one who might be navigating the often choppy waters of mental health challenges? Start by giving yourself or that special someone in your life a little bit of grace. Acknowledge that it's okay to feel how you feel. There's no right or wrong way to handle emotions. They're just part of the beautiful, if sometimes messy, human experience. Think about setting some kindness goals. This could mean carving out time for self-care each week, whether it's lounging in a bubble bath, binge watching your favorite series, or breaking out the yoga mat for some much needed Zen vibes. If you're supporting someone else, check in on them regularly. Sometimes all it takes is a simple text that says, "Hey, I'm thinking of you," or "How about a coffee date?" Those small gestures can make a world of difference. Plus, encourage honest conversations. If you or someone you care about feels comfortable, talk openly about what you're experiencing. This isn't about diving into the deep end all at once. It's about creating a safe space where both you and your loved ones can be real and raw. We need to tear down the barriers that keep us from truly connecting, and it starts with genuine communication. Now, because I don't want to leave you hanging when it comes to resources, let's quickly dig into some handy tools and support systems available out there. Starting off with the National Alliance on Mental Illness. This organization provides a wealth of resources, including educational materials and a helpline. So you can check out their website at nami.org. That is www.nami.org. They even have a dedicated helpline you can call at 1-800-950-6264. Again, that is 1-800-950-6264. And their trained individuals are ready to lend a helping hand. The next resource is Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. If you or someone you know is in need, their national helpline is another fantastic resource. You can reach them at 1-800-662-4357. Again, that is 1-800-662-4357. Or you can visit them at samhsa.gov. That is www.samhsa.gov to access treatment locator tools. Next resource up is the crisis text line. So if talking isn't your style, but texting is, then this is the perfect option for you. Just text hello to 741-741. In the U.S., to connect with a trained crisis counselors 24/7. Like a superhero in your pocket, always ready to offer support. Again, just text hello to 741-741. And lastly is Mental Health America. Now, they have some amazing tools, including screenings and educational resources. Give them a look at hanat.org. ional.org. So again, that is uwwmhanational.org. It's a treasure trove of useful information. So remember, my friends, self-reflection is the first step towards understanding and supporting not just others, but also yourself. Let's encourage each other to be open, be kind, and take action. It's all about building a community where mental health can be discussed freely and resources are shared abundantly. Now, let's pour our straight into action. What's one small step you can take today to support yourself or someone you care about? Drop us a comment. I'd love to hear y'all's ideas. Now, getting back into the fun of it, Alex, what message do you hope to convey to listeners who may be struggling with their mental health?
I hope to give them the message that there's always help out there. No matter what you think, there's always help. Either that could be from therapists, teacher, principal, your parents, your buddies, if they're real friends, just anybody basically. If they're your friend, from being a parent, from being just someone to look up to. There's always help out there, no matter what you think.
True, sir. Now, how can individuals identify when they or someone they love needs help?
There can be many signs anywhere from, someone staying distant, staying away from other people. That could be signs of social anxiety, not wanting to get into activities. You can also tell by, they've been up all night, if you hear them crying, if they've been showing signs of hurting themselves, stuff like that.
Yeah. Then we also have just minuscule changes as well. Changes in their body language. Changes that would still fall in body language. Also changing, if you start seeing your friends withdrawing away from society a bit. At first it's very subtle, but you'll start to see it more and more. But other than that, what are some community resources or support systems you would recommend for those seeking assistance?
Like the ones you mentioned earlier, the websites, those are good. But community-wise, you can talk to first responders. They're usually more than welcome to give you any kind of advice or point you in the right direction. Hospitals, some businesses even, always more than glad to point you in the right direction, whether they show it or not. But
Now, can you talk about the importance of support in your own recovery journey?
probably more than a big aspect of it is being able to talk to either one of your friends, even though kind of vent to them, I guess you could say, kind of talk to your problems about them, and have someone to listen to you. Basically, I feel that's a huge thing. To have someone that will listen to you, or someone who even went through something similar, they can understand you too.
So, your importance of the peer support in your recovery journey would be for having people who not only understand but also show empathy. Okay. Now, what role do you think what role do you think conversations about mental health play in fostering a supportive community?
I think it's just always good, to get the word out whenever you can. Even if you don't have mental health, it's always something good to talk about, You never know what's going to lie in the future, so you never know if it's going to hit you.
Yeah. I'll say that question also does tie in and play with the last question. Like for me, one of the roles that conversations about mental health play in fostering a supportive community to me would be that when you have actually open and honest conversations, not only does that play a role in bringing understanding, but It helps build the knowledge as well as gives you the ability to learn and build your own resilience and empathy towards the situations. Because if you don't have open and honest communication, conversations about these types of struggles within your community, that just goes back to you can't have a supportive community if no one talks. Like, if you cannot be 100% open and honest with what's going on inside of you, then you don't really have a supportive community. So one of the main roles would be the fact of it brings understanding and empathy. And those two things are what lay the foundation for a supportive community. Now, with that being said, if someone wants to reach out to you directly, how can they connect with you? Yeah. Like whether it be one of your social medias, Discord, like anything.
Discord, I mean, it's not hard to find me. It's Secret Operator. It's social. You can, well, a YouTube channel, the Operator. You can find my socials on there, and you can DM me directly from Instagram, Discord. Join the Discord server, and you can DM me from there or anything.
Right now, we're going to go into our closing thoughts, everyone. All right, my wonderful listeners. As we round up this enlightening episode, let's recap some of the key points we've explored today. We've taken a deep dive into the vital role that social media and public discussions play in reducing stigma around mental health. Seriously, who knew Instagram could be such a powerful force for change? Remember those campaigns we touched upon, like hashtag Bell Let's Talk and Time to Change? They're prime examples of how conversations spark connections and pave the way for awareness. We also took a moment to have some honest self-reflection. Whether you're supporting yourself or a loved one facing mental health challenges, it's crucial to foster kindness, understanding, and open dialogue. You might just send that text or schedule that cup of coffee to catch up. That can mean the world. And let's not forget the treasure trove of mental health resources available to all of us, from the NAMI helpline to the crisis text line. These tools are there to remind us that we don't have to navigate this journey alone. Now, if there's one takeaway I hope you hold on to, it's this. Let's normalize the conversation around mental health. The more we talk about it, the more we break down the stigma and create a supportive environment for everyone. So whether it's with friends, family, or online communities, keep the dialogue flowing. All right, Alex, before we wrap up things, what are your final thoughts? I think it's important to emphasize just how vital it is for our listeners to know that help is available and that whatever they're going through, they've got a whole community out there cheering them on. How can we reinforce this message and embrace that support?
I think we should be able to embrace it and support it through social media, especially through our community groups, social media, and promote it as much as we can.
Anything further you'd like to elaborate on that one? All right. Then we'll move straight into the call to action.
That's all I got.
All right, my fabulous listeners. We've shared some powerful insights today. And now it's time for the ultimate call to action. If you've enjoyed our deep dive into mental health, we want you to join in on the action. First things first, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you ensure that you never miss a beat when it comes to our upcoming episodes packed with knowledge, some laughter, and a sprinkle of inspiration. Who wouldn't want that arriving in their podcast feed? Am I right? Next up, let's chat about ratings. If today's episode resonated with you, even just a little bit, please take a moment to leave us a rating. 5 stars, yes, please. But, I'll settle for that too in a comment telling me why. Your kind words not only motivate us to keep the good vibes rolling, but also help others discover our community. It's like giving our little podcast a high five that echoes across the world. And now, for the most exciting part. Remember, sharing is caring. We've had some fantastic conversations today, and there's no telling how far they can reach. So I encourage all of you to share this episode on your social media platforms, tag your friends, drop it in group chats, or even send it to that one person you know could really use some encouragement. Imagine how many people might benefit from hearing our discussions on mental health awareness, connection, and support. By sharing, you're not just spreading our episode, you're also extending an invitation for more people to join in on a conversation that matters. And Alex, I know you're all about empowering others. What do you think? How can our listeners effectively use social media to spread the word and connect with those who might need to hear this message?
I feel like share it as much as you can, post it as much as you can. Just get the word out there and everywhere you can.
Alex. Now, as we draw this enlightening episode to a close, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Alex for joining us today. Your openness and insights have truly been a beacon of wisdom, and I know our listeners are going to be walking away with a deeper understanding of mental health and its ripple effects. Alex, your authentic sharing reminds us all that vulnerability is a strength, and it's conversations like these that help bridge the gaps in our understanding. You've given us all a little extra fuel to light the way for ourselves and each other. So, thank you for being real, relatable, and a champion for mental health awareness. Now, before we say goodbye, I've got a little teaser for what's in store next week. Are you ready for this? Drum roll, please. Our upcoming episode is going to be all about navigating relationships in recovery. Yes, folks. That means we'll be diving into the ever so complex world of love, friendship, and support systems while healing. How do we maintain connections? What challenges do we face? And how can we foster healthy relationships along the way? I think you'll be genuinely intrigued by the insights we'll share. And trust me, there will be plenty of nuggets of wisdom and perhaps a few humorous anecdotes thrown in for good measure. So make sure to tune in next week so you don't miss a single moment. As always, keep the conversation going, stay engaged, and remember, every step we take matters. All right, everyone, let's rally together and make sure these vital discussions ripple out into the world. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and remember, you're never alone in this journey. Thank you for listening, and we can't wait to see you back here for our next exploration into the beautiful journey of recovery.
In the shadows I wander, caught in a web of despair, chasing dreams that slipped away, bringing the heavy air. Each moment felt like drowning, every choice a bitter chain, but in the depths of sorrow, I found strength within the pain. Forth from the pain I rise anew, through the struggles I'll fight for you, with I'm learning to breathe in the open air. Out of the darkness I claim my light. Forced from the pain, I'm ready to fight. Waves of doubt may crash around, but I'm stronger than before. Each step I take on this hard road opens up another door, with hope as my companion and a love to light the way. I'll embrace the journey, let the past fade away. And when the clouds roll in and the nights feel long, I'll remember my strength. In this heart I belong. Together we'll stand in the warmth of our grace. Every tear that we shed